bring in our panel right now. Julia Manchester, national politics reporter for The Hill, and Maura Gillespie, former advisor to House Speaker John Boehner and founder and principal of BlueStack Strategies. So, should she stay or should she go? Which one is it and why? Julia, you're up first.
Look, I mean, I think if she's getting the money from donors, Nikki Haley is going to continue to stay in this race. Now, in terms of what her end game is, we really don't know. I mean, she says it's to win the primary, but it's hard to see how the delegate math really racks up. Now, once we get to some of those Super Tuesday states, we see more proportional delegates. So maybe she'll be, focused on that. But it's going to be a real uphill climb for her. One thing we know is for certain, or actually we don't know if it's for certain, but there is a question as to whether she will even ultimately fall behind Trump. I mean, she made that vow or that promise to endorse whoever the eventual nominee is. But this primary has seemed to become increasingly personal, and her staying in the race is really just making Trump and his allies more angry.
Maura, how do you see it?
I think she should stay in the race. I largely see the rematch of Biden versus Trump as something that people don't want. You said as much as earlier, the poll at 70% or more don't want a rematch, and they're not enthusiastic about this election, unfortunately. And I think that hurts us. And what it represents to me is this is the impact of what the political party machines want. They've given us two choices that we don't feel inspired by, and Nikki Haley is representing an alternative, someone younger, someone who can stay in, should she win for 8 years. Neither Trump nor Biden could do that. I think it's interesting that Governor Newsom would say things like, he loves her attacks on Trump. Well, all those things that she is saying could also very well be applied in a lot of those cases to Biden. The age question, the ability to stay in office for more than 4 years question, issues with their children and using, nepotism as a concern for people. All those things could really be tied back to Biden as well. So I think it's interesting that he would say something like that.
All right. So listen, 2.5 months ago, we have a poll here. I'm going to pop up there. It's 56% of 58% of Americans polled, respectively, said they don't want another Biden-Trump rematch. So here we go, ladies. In the vein of Madden fantasy football, who would be on your fantasy ticket for president? Maura, you're up first.
With those two choices?
No, anything. Anything goes.
Anything.
It's fantasy.
I will take Nikki Haley over those two choices. I think we need someone who's looking forward. I think both Biden and Trump are looking backwards. So I'm looking to someone who actually has optimism for the future and not just grudges for the past.
Julia?
Yeah, I don't mean to throw the cop out, but, as a journalist, I don't necessarily make those decisions. But what I will say is that it is remarkable that we are headed towards just an incredibly unpopular matchup. And, going back to Nikki Haley, it's so incredibly ironic. She's, of course, trailing Trump in the primary, but in multiple polls, she's beating President Biden. So, to piggyback off of Maura's point earlier, I think it's really interesting that Gavin Newsom is praising Nikki Haley because talking to Democrats, they say, of course, we want to run against Trump. We don't want to run against Haley. So Haley has this primary problem, but she's seen as just this really good general election candidate to run up against Joe Biden.
Well, we will watch to see if she can last through March 5th at least, and we'll have both of you back. We'll talk about it again. I'd love to having you together, Julia Manchester and Maura Gillespie. Thank you very much for joining us.